You ever look at a massive city skyline? Like maybe right as the sun is coming up, and you just realize you aren't just looking at, glass and steel anymore.
Right. It's something else entirely.
Yeah. You're looking at this giant, incredibly hungry machine. Like a machine that needs a constant, massive diet of electricity and data and human capital just to keep the lights on for one more day.
It really is a staggering amount of hidden orchestration.
Yeah.
I mean, we see the email get sent, we see the digital assistant answer some complex question,
Right.
but we don't see the thousands of miles of subterranean fiber optics or, the massive humming data centers out in the middle of the desert actually making it all possible.
Exactly. And that hidden orchestration is exactly what we're dragging out into the light today. Because, well, it is July 1st, 2026. Welcome to today's Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
We've got a massive stack of morning briefings from the Daily Tech Reader today, which it gives us this literal real-time snapshot of the world's priorities on this single morning. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because our mission today for you, the listener, is to basically cut through all the daily noise.
Yeah, and there's a lot of noise out there right now.
So much. We are ignoring the short-term market swings today. What we want to do is understand the dominant theme of the second half of 2026, which is this massive global shift toward modernization.
Right, the reality of building the physical and digital infrastructure for an AI-driven economy.
Yes. And if you look at the briefings, you can see investors are actively looking past the whole hype cycle now.
They really are. I mean, the market isn't reacting to flashy press releases anymore. They're looking at foundational economic indicators.
Like what specifically?
Like employment, inflation, manufacturing, corporate earnings. Basically the experimental phase of artificial intelligence. That's over. We are firmly in the deployment phase now.
Wait, let me stop you right there because that feels like a massive threshold we've just crossed.
Oh, it absolutely is.
The biggest money on the planet is moving into the technology sector, but not for novelty anymore. Like AI is no longer this experimental toy that spits out a funny poem or, a weird image of a guy with too many fingers.
Right, exactly. Those days are kind of behind us.
It's a fundamental utility now. It's becoming like water or electricity.
That is exactly the shift we're seeing. Enterprise AI has officially entered its infrastructure era.
Infrastructure era.
Yeah. When you look at where the massive capital investments are concentrated right now, it's not in consumer apps. The money is pouring into data centers and semiconductors and cloud platforms.
For the longest time, the tech industry just loved that old cliche about the gold rush.
So the pickaxes thing?
Yeah. That the people who really get rich are the ones selling the pickaxes. But just like reading through these briefings today, that feels way too small for what's actually happening right now. We aren't selling pickaxes. We are building the interstate highway system.
Oh, wow. That's a much better way to look at it.
Right, because an interstate highway isn't glamorous at all. It's incredibly expensive. It takes literally years of laying down asphalt. But once it's there...
everything runs on it.
Exactly. All future commerce relies on it. In 2026, the concrete and asphalt are, well, semiconductors and cloud servers. But I do have to admit, I'm a little confused by something in these reports.
Okay, what's that?
Well, they keep talking about how employers only care about measurable productivity gains, right? And predictable operating costs. Is the magic of AI kind of fading?
What's fascinating here is how the competition has actually shifted. It isn't about who has the most magical or surprising AI anymore.
Really? Because that's all people used to talk about.
Right, but now open source AI ecosystems and massive foundation models.
And those are basically the underlying highly trained brains, right?
Right.
That other companies build their apps on top of.
Yeah, exactly. Those foundation models are now competing primarily on efficiency. They're competing on operating costs.
Wait, but all I see in the news are headlines about, which AI scored higher on a bar exam, or which one is marginally smarter. What does competing on efficiency actually look like on the ground for a real business?
So it comes down to something called inference cost.
Inference costs.
Yeah. Every single time you ask an AI a question, it requires computing power to generate the answer.
Okay, makes sense.
Now, if you're a massive logistics company routing thousands of trucks or, a hospital network managing patient data, you are asking the AI millions of questions a day.
Oh, wow. Millions.
Right. So if one foundation model costs, say, 2 cents per query, and another model is maybe slightly less smart but costs 1/10 of a cent per query,
you're obviously choosing the cheaper one.
You are choosing the cheaper one every time.
Yeah.
That signals operational maturity. Businesses are prioritizing reliability and cost over time rather than, peak intelligence.
They basically just want it to work seamlessly without totally breaking the IT budget.
Precisely. And that's why things like multimodal AI.
Meaning an AI system that doesn't just read text, but can, like, simultaneously look at a live video feed, listen to audio, and analyze a spreadsheet all at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is no longer considered some premium beta feature. It is a basic enterprise expectation.
Wow.
The same goes for AI coding assistants. They aren't novelties anymore. They are standard development tools embedded directly into the software that engineers are using every single day.
But, to build those digital interstates, we need physical concrete. And reading these infrastructure reports, it really seems like getting that rock-solid digital performance is placing an unbelievable, almost breaking point burden on the physical world.
It really is. The physical toll is, frankly, the single most critical bottleneck we are facing right now. Because all that operational efficiency in the digital realm, it requires a staggering, tangible amount of physical energy.
Which, as I just have to push back a little on the technological optimism that usually surrounds AI, because there's this deep, almost painful irony playing out here.
How so?
Well, we're building these hyper-advanced intelligent systems that can decode human biology, but our actual day-to-day progress is fundamentally constrained by something as basic as the summer heat.
Right.
Just trying to keep the air conditioning running in the server rooms.
It is a profound irony, yeah. But we have to look at the mechanics of why that's happening. AI doesn't run on traditional computer processors or CPUs.
Right, it runs on GPUs.
Right, graphics processing units, which are designed to handle thousands of calculations simultaneously. But GPUs draw massive amounts of electricity, and consequently, they generate an intense amount of heat.
And nature is not exactly cooperating with our need to cool them down right now. I mean, the briefings show sustained summer heat waves across multiple U.S. states and Europe.
Yes.
So you have this crazy situation where regular people are cranking up their home AC just to survive, which taxes the power grid. And on that exact same grid, you have these massive AI data centers pulling unprecedented amounts of power to cool their own servers.
It creates a severe compounding physical pressure on public utilities.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the AI data centers are driving so much electricity demand that utility companies are literally having to rewrite their 10 to 20-year long-term planning models.
Wow. 10 to 20 years.
Yeah. Grid modernization projects are expanding nationwide, not as some luxury upgrade, but as an emergency measure to prevent systemic failures.
Which, honestly, totally explains the macro-level response we're seeing in the markets. We aren't just trying to, build more coal plants to power these things. The energy sector is desperately trying to innovate its way out of this corner.
Exactly. And this is why infrastructure capital is heavily concentrated in alternative energy right now.
Like what?
Well, we're seeing nuclear energy policy getting serious fast-tracked attention.
Because it provides massive baseline power without the carbon footprint.
Right. But, nuclear takes a decade to build.
Yeah, you can't just throw up a reactor over the weekend.
Exactly. So to bridge the gap, the deployment of industrial battery storage is growing significantly to capture solar and wind. There's even a huge surge of investment going into fusion energy development.
Because we desperately need that silver bullet for clean, infinite power.
Yes, we do.
And yet, while we are trying to invent this sci-fi energy grid, the regular physical world just keeps turning, with all its mundane problems. Like the dispatch notes that Independence Day travel is accelerating toward one of the busiest weekends of the year.
Right.
Housing affordability is still this brutal challenge for buyers nationwide. Preparations are underway for America's 250th anniversary. It's just a weird juxtaposition.
It really is.
We're trying to launch this digital revolution, but we're stuck in traffic on the way to a 4th of July barbecue, worried about our mortgage.
It just highlights that you cannot separate the digital ambition from the physical reality. You can't modernize physical power grids or manufacture advanced semiconductors without raw materials. And you don't get those raw materials without incredibly stable global supply chains.
Which brings us directly to the geopolitical realities of 2026.
Yeah.
Because you literally don't get the silicon to build the GPU to run the AI without international trade.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the resilience of those global supply chains is actually quite remarkable given, well, the friction out there.
Well, let's walk through that because there is an insight here that completely blew my mind when I read it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When you look at the world section of the briefings, Middle East diplomacy is still a massive focus. Like, back in May, there were those tentative U.S.-Iran peace talks.
Right, from the May 31 archive.
Exactly. And now, as a result, global shipping through the Strait of Hormuz is remaining stable.
Yes, and that stability is the linchpin.
Right. Because if the Strait of Hormuz is open,
Yeah.
oil and natural gas flow freely.
Mm-hmm.
If energy flows freely, global energy prices stabilize. Then semiconductor fabrication plants, which are incredibly energy intensive, can actually produce silicon chips without massive price spikes.
It's a huge domino effect.
Those chips get shipped to the U.S., and suddenly the cost of outfitting a new data center in the American Midwest stays within budget. Literally, a diplomatic conversation in the Middle East dictates whether a cloud server in Ohio can afford to turn on. That is a crazy causal chain.
It's completely interconnected, and global trade is just constantly adapting to this friction. Because, while the Middle East is showing signs of diplomatic stabilization, there are other deeply entrenched conflicts.
Yeah, for sure.
Like in Europe, Ukraine and Russia are continuing their long-range military operations, and NATO is, of course, closely monitoring those evolving security conditions to ensure regional stability doesn't fracture further.
And even right here at home, our own physical borders are a major point of friction. Immigration remains a central political issue in the U.S.
It does.
There was that story just a few weeks ago in early June where federal authorities uncovered a 2,000-foot drug tunnel connecting Mexico to the U.S. And I just couldn't help but think about the contrast there.
What do you mean?
We're spending billions to build these invisible, frictionless digital borders in the cloud where data moves at the speed of light. But our actual physical borders remain these incredibly complex, tangible challenges involving concrete tunnels and human desperation.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast. And you see this geopolitical caution reflected in the financial markers as well. The markets really act as a mirror to this global tension.
Oh, so?
Well, gold, which is traditionally a safe haven asset when people are nervous about the physical world, it continues to reflect geopolitical caution. Bitcoin remains near its recent trading ranges, and Treasury yields, which are essentially the interest rates the U.S. government pays to borrow money, remain a very crucial economic indicator.
Wait, why do Treasury yields matter so much for the tech infrastructure we're talking about?
Because building out data centers and power grids requires borrowing tens of billions of dollars.
Right.
If Treasury yields are high, it means the cost of borrowing money across the entire economy is high, and that directly impacts the valuations of these tech companies and their ability to fund these massive, decade-long infrastructure projects.
So it all circles back.
Exactly. Every diplomatic development, every shift in oil production from energy-producing nations, it all ripples back to the cost of borrowing money to build the future.
It's just a massive balancing act. Nations are adapting, energy grids are being completely rewired, the geopolitical chessboard is shifting. But it isn't just happening at the macro level, is it?
No, not at all.
The individual human experience, like our health, our culture, our legal systems, is being radically reshaped by this era too.
The human impact is arguably the most profound shift of all, especially when you look at the mechanics of healthcare and scientific research right now.
Yeah, the science section of the briefings literally reads like something out of a futuristic novel.
Yeah.
AI-assisted diagnostics are seeing much broader adoption, meaning software is basically reading X-rays and MRIs alongside doctors. And AI is advancing drug discovery.
Let's actually unpack the drug discovery aspect for a second, because it perfectly illustrates the power of AI as infrastructure.
Okay, lay it on me.
So traditional drug discovery involves manually testing how millions of different chemical compounds interact with a specific disease protein, right?
Right, trial and error.
It takes years and it costs billions of dollars. But now, AI foundation models can digitally predict how a protein will fold.
Wow.
And then it can simulate how millions of compounds will interact with it in a matter of days. Days. It is fundamentally changing the speed of precision medicine.
And universities are deepening their research into all of this. Plus, NASA is continuing preparations for the Artemis missions to the moon, and Mars exploration planning is ongoing. And it's all heavily reliant on AI modeling.
It's an incredible time for science.
It really feels like an absolute renaissance. But then, you turn the page in the briefing and you hit this incredibly grounding, stubborn reality.
The workforce shortages?
Exactly. Healthcare workforce shortages remain a serious, persistent challenge.
It is the ultimate gap between technological capability and human capacity.
Yeah.
We have AI advancing genomics and personalized medicine, but an AI cannot hold a patient's hand.
Right.
It cannot physically start an IV. It cannot provide bedside nursing care.
Which is what people actually need when they're sick.
Exactly. Remote patient monitoring and digital health platforms are expanding aggressively to try and bridge that gap to let doctors monitor patients at home. But the physical workforce shortage remains a stubbornly real problem.
And it's not just how we heal,
Right.
right? It's how we live and how we entertain ourselves. Culture is adapting just as fast. Right now, World Cup knockout football is completely dominating the global conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
The summer movie season is in full swing. The creator economy and podcast audiences are incredibly strong. But behind the scenes, the actual tools of cultural production are completely turning over.
They are. The music industry, traditional media publishers, they are actively having to adapt to AI production workflows.
And it's not just about an AI writing a catchy pop song. It's about the mechanics of production.
Right.
We're seeing AI tools that can instantly separate stems, meaning they can just pull the vocals, the drums, and the bass apart from a finished track with perfect clarity.
Which used to be nearly impossible.
Exactly. We're seeing generative AI creating dynamic backing tracks on the fly for video creators.
Yeah.
The entire workflow of how human beings create media is just being completely compressed.
And here is where the tension lies. It changes the nature of production, which inherently threatens established economic models in those industries.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because whenever you have a massive technological leap that threatens economic models, you get friction.
Oh, yes.
And in our society, friction means lawsuits.
Lots of lawsuits.
The law is frantically trying to catch up to the code. There was a massive story out of Florida just a few weeks ago that perfectly captures this. Florida actually became the first state to sue OpenAI over ChatGPT safety failures.
Which is a massive development. This raises an important question about governance.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because we have this incredible promise of AI mapping proteins to cure diseases on one hand, and then we have the messy human reality of state governments suing tech companies because the guardrails on the technology failed in a public setting on the other.
Right. The technology has simply outpaced the existing legal and regulatory frameworks.
Yeah.
That is exactly why the briefings note that AI governance platforms, which are basically software designed to monitor and control other AI software.
Called Meta.
Right. Those platforms are maturing rapidly right alongside the deployments themselves. Take medical AI regulation, for instance.
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving. Governments are actively trying to integrate AI into public services to save money and increase efficiency, but they have to figure out how to manage these tools safely, reliably, and legally.
Because you can't just adopt the old Silicon Valley mantra of move fast and break things when the thing you might break is, a municipal power grid.
Yeah.
Or a hospital's diagnostic system.
Exactly. The stakes are physical now. That is why human oversight remains completely central. It is explicitly noted in all the workplace trend reports right now. We are not at a point of autonomous handover.
So what did this all mean? We've covered a massive amount of ground today for you, the listener. We walked through the shift from the AI hype cycle right into the concrete infrastructure era. We look at the extreme physical strain this is putting on our power grids, how a peace talk in the Middle East literally secures the supply chain for a data center in the Midwest, and how lawsuits are actively trying to build the legal guardrails for the future. But what does this actually mean for your daily life?
For the individual, I think the primary takeaway is about adaptation.
Adaptation.
Yes. AI is transforming knowledge work. Automation is fundamentally reshaping office workflows. And because businesses are so hyper-focused on operational efficiency and measurable productivity like we talked about,
Right.
we are seeing a massive expansion in skills-based hiring.
Meaning employers aren't just looking at the pedigree of where you went to university anymore.
No, not really.
They want to know if you actually have the technical skills to operate in this new, rapidly changing environment.
Precisely. AI skills are in extremely high demand. Cybersecurity hiring is incredibly strong right now because as the digital infrastructure grows, the attack surface for hackers grows right along with it.
That makes total sense.
So for the listener, in an economy driven by infrastructure and AI, your greatest competitive advantages are continuous learning and long-term adaptability. The software tools you master today, they will almost certainly change by next year.
Wow.
Your value isn't in knowing the current tool. Your value is in your ability to learn the next one.
It's not about memorizing the answers anymore. It's about being agile enough to adapt to entirely new questions.
Exactly.
Looking at all these sources today, seeing this massive, unprecedented push to build out data centers, the scramble to rewire the electrical grids, the race to find nuclear and fusion energy, it leaves me with one final thought.
What's that?
Well, we've talked a lot today about how AI data centers are reshaping long-term utility planning and how they're overwhelming our physical grids right now.
Right.
But think about the trajectory we're on. What happens in, say, 5 or 10 years as this AI infrastructure grows so massive, so interconnected, and so complex that human engineers can no longer physically optimize it? Like, will we eventually reach a tipping point where we have to task the AI itself with redesigning and balancing and managing the very physical power grids it relies on to survive?
That's a wild thought.
Will human oversight remain the central tiller, as it is today? Or will the physical infrastructure of our world eventually be managed entirely by the digital one? Something to think about the next time you hear the hum of an air conditioner.